Also new this morning, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. This is an effort to lower the temperature between the two nations, which of course has been rising. Today's meeting could pave the way for President Biden and Xi to meet later on this year. NewsNation senior national security analyst and retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton joins us now. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Margie.
So both the State Department and the Chinese government say that the talks on the first day were, quote, candid and constructive, but it does seem that nothing concrete was really achieved by day one. But I want to start with, we're learning early this morning Blinken will be meeting or just met with Xi Jinping. That wasn't even guaranteed to begin with. So what does that signal to you, sir?
It was candid and constructive, but also another word I would use would be very direct. And the center of the discussions kicked off with their foreign minister and Secretary Blinken for almost over 7 hours at the start of the trip back on Friday and Saturday. Center of the topic of discussion was over Taiwan, but other bilateral discussions ensuing. But really, I think it's very important that Secretary Blinken just finished a meeting with President Xi, and that's significant because that could pave a way for other bilateral visits. Perhaps Secretary Yellen, Secretary of Treasury, could be visiting. But more importantly, this could lay a groundwork for President Xi and President Biden to meet potentially perhaps at the G20 summit that's going to be coming up in September, or it could be an APEC that's going to be meeting in November in San Francisco. So this has been not only constructive, but I think it's been very useful trip for Secretary Blinken as he's on his way back to Washington, D.C. I think there'll be a lot to unfold from here, but I think it's been constructive, and I would call it a success.
Okay, and I was going to ask you that, you brought up the different discussions, including Taiwan, that were brought to the table. There were so many discussions that needed to be had: nuclear warfare, climate change, the war in Ukraine, Taiwan, fentanyl, you name it, the list goes on. In your eyes, what was top priority? And you said this is a success, but, why was it a success in your eyes?
Well, right. I think I put success under quotation marks, but the devil will be in the details, if you will. But just the fact that we've got the first visit of a Secretary of State in 5 years, Markey, visiting in China, but also now meeting with President Xi. It was only for about 30 minutes, but that's significant. And so what this will do, this will lay groundwork for more discussions between Washington, D.C. and Beijing. As I mentioned, it could set up other bilateral talks, but most importantly, lay the groundwork for the two presidents to meet. One that's is concerning to me is there's still no really discussions or engagement or contact between the Secretaries of Defense and the Minister of Defense for China. So that's lacking in those military-to-military discussions. If you recall, last couple of weeks, we've had some dangerous engagements at sea and also in the air between U.S. military and Chinese military. And so that still is to be determined if that will happen. But nonetheless, there's lots to work with on this visit.
And one last question for you, and I want to play some sound for you before I let you go. During an appearance on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday, 2024 Republican candidate Chris Christie was critical of the Biden administration's approach to China. Take a listen to this.
Whatever he's doing today is a day late and a dollar short, Bob. He should have been being much more direct with China right from the beginning.
Lieutenant General, is that fair? Is that fair criticism?
Well, that's domestic politics, and I think I would not have those sway moving forward. He mentioned, about in the past and so forth. There's a lot to unpack there. But I think moving forward now, we now have a basis for engagement with China. It's not just on the military side or the diplomatic side, but it's on the economy side. These are the two largest economies in the world. China faces some headwinds in their economy also, as well as the United States. So I think it's in both interests that we engage. I would advocate to the president for him to continue to engage, certainly at the secretarial level, but also to meet with President Xi. But we need to make sure that we do this from a position of strength and that we do it vis-a-vis really our engagement strategy is in best interest of the United States. And so the fact that we've got the two leaders hopefully will meet at some point later this year, I think is significant.
Yeah, of the two largest economies in the world. And I'm sure we'll find out later on today what more came of that meeting with President Xi Jinping. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton, thank you always for your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.